Welcome back. We're now going to go to the Messages tab, and we're going to go to the first tab, which is called Drafts. When we go to the Drafts tab, what you're going to notice is that you have a page where you can create a message and you can create a draft. Now, this screen will have all of the emails that you create inside of Aweber that have not been saved, added to broadcast, or added to follow-ups. So because Aweber auto-saves your email, you will be able to keep track of all of the emails that you are writing, and you will be able to have them in this area. Now, in order to get started writing an email, what you're going to do inside of the draft button is you're going to click Create a Message. Now you have three choices. You can either click the drag and drop email builder, which is what you will use in most cases because this will send the most attractive emails. You can send an email by plain text if you have a specific reason as to wanting to send plain text emails to a certain list. Or you can also use the HTML editor if you know HTML extremely well. Now, because most entrepreneurs will be using the drag and drop editor, we're going to actually start with this builder. So let's click this link. Now, there are several elements that you want to be familiar with inside of the draft screen. The first you want to be familiar with is going to be the template box. We can actually use some of the pre-formatted templates that Aweber gives us in order to send out our email. Now, of course, we can change any of these templates to be what we want them to be if they suit our message. Now, if you want to write a plain message to your email marketing list, all you'll need to do is to click this plain tab. And indeed, this is the default setting. So you don't really even have to choose this template. You will actually have this template inside of your message writer by default. Now, if you want to use a different format, you can do that. You can use a center aligned format, or you can continue to use the left aligned format. Now, in order to get back to the writing screen, what we're going to do is we're going to click inside of this box, and that's going to bring us back to the Aweber screen. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all of the elements that we can actually add inside of our Aweber email. So we're going to start by writing a message, and we're going to edit it as we go along. So we have our content, and what we're going to do is we're going to put our cursor inside of the body, and we're going to cut and paste our text. Now that we have our text inside of our email, we can actually start editing this email so that it actually looks the way we want it to be. Now, one of the things that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to take out some of the titles. So now that we have our content inside of our email, let's take a look at some of the things that we can do. Now, we can always change the appearance of the text and make it larger for our client. And all we would need to do is to highlight the text, then change the size. We can make the size anything that we actually want within this box. So now that we have the text at the size that we actually want it, what we're going to do is we're going to personalize the email. Now, one of the things that you'll notice at the very beginning is that this email is going to be personalized. And it's being personalized with a common personalization code, which is first name fix. That means that Aweber will look at the code and it will try to determine the first name based on what's in the box. And this is actually a better code than just first name. It will look at all the available information and try to put the best fit for the first name. So in most cases, you will continue to use first name fix. However, you could use a different personalization code. And if that is the case, then what you do is you go to the personalize field, you pull the drop down menu and you choose one. For example, you could use the full name, or you could even use the last name. So whatever personalizes the email for your market and your niche, that is what you want to use in the personalization area. We're going to go ahead and take this information out. One of the things you'll notice at the bottom here is that Aweber is auto-saving our email. But we do want to make sure that we put a title in here so that we'll know what we've actually worked on when we look in the draft area. Now, what we can do as we go along is we can actually preview and test the email to find out what our clients are actually going to see. Now, one other thing that we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a look at the background color of our email. Now, naturally, we have a white background because that is the default setting. However, you can change the background color. We can click that link and we can make that background color whatever we want. If we wanted it to be a little more gray, we could click apply. It's a very easy way of adding some kind of branding to what we're actually writing. We can actually go back to this background color and then click apply. And every time we go along, what we're going to do is we're going to click preview and test so that we can actually get a sense for how this email is going to look when it appears in the inbox of our client. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to continue to work on this email and we're now going to click save. When we click save, you'll notice that the auto save number goes up by 1. And now we can continue adding things to this email. And we will do that when we come back in the next video. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in that next video. Welcome back. We're now going to pick it up inside of the writing screen, and inside of the text editor, you have all of the same editing features that you would have in any other word processing document. So, for example, once we place the cursor inside of here, what you'll see is that you have a toolbar that is enabled to you. So that means that you can take any of these words and you can make them bold. And by clicking the B, you can take the bold off. You can do the same thing for italics. And clicking again and turning the italics off, underline, and strike through. You can also change the actual color of a particular text by clicking apply, and then when you take the highlighter off, you'll see it. You can change it back to black. You can actually highlight a background. So, for example, we could take this text and we can actually put a yellow background there. And you'll see that there is a background. We can take that background right back off and click apply. So you have all of the same text features that you would have inside of any word processing document. You can also bullet point, and you can take the bullet point off. Now you'll notice that didn't go back exactly the way you wanted it to, so you may have to do some editing. So you want to make sure that you can work with all of the features inside of your word processing to make your document look the way you want. And again, remember that all you'll need to do is to click the preview and test button to take a look at how it's actually going to appear to your client. Now, Aweber will allow you some drag and drop features inside of your newsletter. So what you could do is you can use any of the features that you see on the left-hand side menu by dragging and dropping. So, for example, we can drag and drop a headline in here. And we can write that headline in. And we can take that box right back out. Now, one thing that you may be doing is you may be adding an image, and you can actually do that by writing in and dragging and dropping the image inside of the editor. And you can take the editor back out. You can drag and drop a video into your box. And what you'll notice when you actually set up the settings for this video, we do that by clicking inside of the video. We can actually put a video URL inside of here and we can actually have the thumbnail to appear. So let's do that right now. We can write in the title, and then we can even determine the destination URL for the video. If we decide we don't want it, we can take it right back out. We can add in a button or a button code. And of course, if we click on top of the button, then we can actually send people based on them clicking that button to the page that we want them to go. And we can take that button right back out. We can add in our social media contact, Facebook and Twitter. And by clicking on Facebook and or Twitter, we can actually customize where we want those links to go. We can add in a product link, and this is much the same as a buy button. So we can actually edit the image. We can add an image, and then we can have it linked. We can have our button, which will send people to a page. So we have total customization over this particular product image. We can add in a coupon. And of course, we can actually write in what we want to see inside of that coupon and take it back out. And then we can add in our logo. Now again, with all of these images, we can actually size these down to what we want them to be. We can click inside and adjust them from there. Of course, we can add in our signature. In this case, we would add that here at the bottom. And we can even add in a divider. Lastly, we can add in share buttons. We can do that, put that at the bottom of our email. And this will give people the opportunity to share the content on their social media. Finally, if you do something and you don't like the way it looks, you can always go and do the undo button or use the redo button, which will take you back one step to where you actually started, and then you can have the text where you were. And of course, Aweber is auto-saving your information as you go. You can always go back to a previous version at a particular time. But the best way to do that, if you can, is to use the undo and or redo buttons. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. When you have completed your drafts, one of the things that you can do is you can actually place that draft inside of your follow-up series. And these are actually your autoresponder emails. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to start this video by clicking the Add to Follow-up series. Aweber is going to give us a message and let us know that this is going to be the first follow-up message. So in other words, when a subscriber signs up for this list, they're going to confirm their email address, and this email is going to be the first one they're going to receive. We're going to go ahead and click the Add to Follow-up series. Now, Aweber is actually going to place you inside of the follow-up area. And you'll notice then that you can now place your messages in order according to how your customer is going to actually see them. And these messages are going to be sent automatically. Now, each of the autoresponder messages are going to have settings. So, for example, let's say that we create a second and third message. And we're going to do that quickly, and then we're going to take a look at how we customize the settings. Now, we have gone to the draft section to draft both of our emails. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to move these to the follow-up area. So we're going to click Add to Follow-up Series. And what you're going to notice is with this email, follow-up number 2 comes one day after the previous one. We can actually customize this number. We can set it to 2, we can set it to 3, we can set it to wherever we want it to be. We can also have it to appear at a different time. So for example, we can have it to appear on a certain day if we need to, or we can have it appear at a certain time. We can actually customize when this email is going to appear to all of our clients. We can actually send this email according to each subscriber's local time if we click this link. And then we can actually make it so that all of the days and times will apply to all of the messages in the list. Now, we're not going to do that in this particular case. We're just going to add this to the follow-up series. Now we have 2 messages in our follow-up. The second one actually comes one day after the first, and it starts at 9 a.m. We can now go back to the draft area, and then we can set the message for the third message. We can add that to the follow-up series, and we can make it so that this message actually comes 3 days after message number 2. We can then click Add to Follow-up Series. And now what we basically have is we have a campaign that we are determining whether or not the campaign actually works. Now, once we have determined that this campaign is actually effective, one of the things that we can do is we can actually share this campaign. And we can do that by going to this campaign sharing link, and we can choose to share our follow-ups, we can choose to share our broadcasts, or we can choose to share our follow-ups and our broadcasts. Now, in this particular case, we are going to choose to share our follow-ups. So we're going to click Save. And when we do that, you'll notice that Aweber is going to give us a campaign code. That campaign code is now going to disappear, but that campaign code now appears in this area. What this means now is that we can actually share this campaign code with someone else who wants to use the same messages in their business. And they would do that by coming to their Aweber account and loading that campaign code in this space that says use a predefined campaign code. So the messages that we are creating right now are technically called autoresponders. They actually arrive into the email box of our client automatically when they sign up for our email marketing list. Now, these are different from broadcast emails. And one of the things that you will have to determine is whether or not you'd like to write your emails and send them out as broadcasts, or whether or not you'd like to have them go automatically to your customers and your clients. So what we're going to look at next is we're going to look at broadcast emails. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. In most cases, you are going to be sending out an email to your email marketing list using the broadcast feature in Aweber. Now, this means that you are writing the message from scratch and you are sending out this message at some particular point in time. Now, you can send out the message at a point in time before it actually has to go out. However, you are writing these messages individually, one at a time, to arrive at your subscriber's email box at a random time. So let's compose an email in our draft area. So we have now composed our email, and we're now going to click Save and Exit. And we're going to send out this email as a broadcast to our entire subscriber list. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Send options, and we're going to schedule a broadcast. Now, you'll notice that if you decide that you want to change the subject line, you can actually change it in this field, or you can leave it as it is. And in the first section, there are some decisions that you can actually make. So, for example, we can click the Edit button, and we're going to notice that you can actually produce your own broadcast archive. Now, that broadcast archive is actually already branded because we did that in an earlier video. So, for example, let's take a look as to how this broadcast archive will actually appear. Now, right now we don't have any emails, but you'll notice there is our logo. You'll notice there is an opt-in page. And what we can do is we can share this broadcast archive just as we would any other web page. So when we publish to a broadcast archive, it's almost like publishing to a web page. And the same thing is going to be true with our RSS feed. Now, we can also post to our social media accounts, and we can do that to a particular page or a particular Twitter account. And we can do that by connecting to a new account in these areas. Now, we're not going to do that right now. We've actually already determined in our settings that we are not going to connect to Twitter or Facebook, but you can, so that your broadcast email will appear there. When you have made all of your choices in this area, what you're going to do is you're going to click Apply. Now, the next stage is who is actually going to receive the message, and this is actually going to be very important. So we're going to click the Edit button. Now, in this particular case, we can actually send the emails to just the people who are going to be on this list, or we can actually include everyone on all of our lists. And typically, if you're going to have a broadcast email, you'll send it to everyone on all of your lists. Or you can exclude some lists or include others. So in some cases, what you could do is you could include everyone in 3 lists and exclude everyone that would be part of another list. You have maximum flexibility over how you're going to actually structure who actually receives this email. Now, the other thing that you can do is you have some choices about who within those email lists actually are going to receive this email. In this drop-down arrow, you notice that you can actually send to the active subscribers. You can actually send to subscribers that have only been added since today, or yesterday, or 7 days, or in the past year. What this does is this actually allows you to send to people who you can segment based on a certain pattern, and then you can actually market to them more effectively. Once you've determined who is actually going to receive your message, whether or not they're going to be included or excluded on your list, or whether or not they're going to be added at a particular time, you're then going to click Apply. Now, another thing that you can do is you can determine when this email is going to be sent. You can click the Edit button, and you can actually time this email so that it can be sent at a particular day on a particular time. We can go into the future, and send on any day that we actually feel this email is appropriate to send. Once we've determined when we want it to be sent, we can click Apply. Now, we can actually make it so that the timing is going to be immediate. We'll just cancel this, and then we will leave it at immediate, and that is the default. Now, the last 2 options are that we can actually track clicks on the website links in this message, and we can have email statistics sent to us a short period of time after the email is actually sent. Now, what we're going to do in the next email is we're actually going to show you how to put website links inside of your emails, because this is what you're actually going to be tracking inside of your quick stats, and you're actually going to be tracking clicks, and Aweber is going to tell you how your email is actually faring with those who have received it. Once you've determined who is going to receive your email, you can actually click Send Message Now. Now, if you have decided to send this message into the future, for example, let's move this email to a date in the future, and we click this button, it's actually going to schedule the message for that particular time. And you'll notice that message is now scheduled. We can actually go and unschedule this message if we do not want it to be sent. Once that happens, that email is then returned to the draft area. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, in this video, we are going to focus just on creating links inside of your emails. And these links can be created for broadcast emails. They can also be created for follow-up emails. What we're going to do is we're going to edit a message in our drafts area, and we can click the edit link, and that brings us to the edit screen. Now, in order to place a link, all you'll need to do is you'll need to place the link someplace in the body of your email. Now, there are several ways of being able to do this. you can actually place the actual URL and create a link with it. For example, we can create a link in this way. Now you'll see the entire URL there, and you actually don't need that in order to place the link inside of your email. It will be there for reference to the people who are going to be reading it. Now, what you're going to do in order to create an active clickable link is you're going to highlight this link. Then you're going to click the link icon. That's going to open up into a dialog box. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that URL. We're going to place it inside of this URL. And what you'll notice is that there is an HTTP here, an HTTP here. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we backspace so that all that appears there is the HTTP on the left side and then the URL on the right side. Now, if the URL is formatted correctly, you're going to see a green success bar here. And then you're going to click OK. You'll then see that this link is going to be a different color. That means that the link is going to be clickable. Now, it doesn't mean that the link is going to be rendering. We are going to need to check that before we actually send, but for this stage of the process, it is a correct link. Now, another way to send a link, obviously, is to hyperlink inside of your text. And you can do that by going inside and actually highlighting text, going to the link icon, and then placing the URL inside. And you'll notice then that the HTTP actually goes away all by itself. We're going to click OK. So now we've created two different kinds of links. We can also just write in a phrase someplace in our text, and we can hyperlink that text. We'll click the link icon, and then we'll put the link in here. Now, in addition to creating links, we can also create email addresses. And we can do that by highlighting the text, going to the link icon, and then changing the link type to email. And what we're going to do is we're going to write our email address that we wanted to send to in this box, and then we're going to put a starter subject and a message body in there. Okay, so once all your text is in, you're going to click OK. And this is actually going to be clickable into an email address. And what it will do is it will actually open up the email editor of the person who's actually clicking the link. Now, for the sake of deliverability, you'll want to keep your linking to affiliate sites to a minimum and redirecting to a minimum. When possible, you want to send people to your own website. So what we're going to do now that we have our content in, we're going to click Save, and then we're going to click Save and Exit. So now that this message is in our drafts area, we are now going to go ahead and send this as a broadcast. We're going to schedule it, and we're going to send it immediately. Aweber is going to warn us and ask us if we want to send this broadcast, and we're going to go ahead and send it. And now our email with our links is actually sent. So now that this email has arrived in our box, we can actually click these links, and they are clickable. Now, what you'll notice is that these links have a tracking code in them. And this allows Aweber to tell us whether or not people are clicking these links. So if we click this link, we'll then know that this link has been clicked when we go and look at our email statistics. We can also have this link, which is our email link, open up into an email facility. And you'll see that our email is now ready to be sent by clicking that link. And Aweber will always give us the statistics for our sending. So actually, we only had one email being received. It was opened by one person. But if we had more than one person inside of our email list, we could actually view our statistics for that email. And Aweber will tell us how many people opened it, how many people clicked on the links. If we had sales tracking and someone reached the page, it'll tell us how many people actually sold, how many people unsubscribed, and then how many times people hit the domain. We can actually look at how many emails are unopened and then how many have been opened. And if we wanted to send a follow-up email to either people who had not opened our email or people who had opened our email, all we would have to do is to create a segment based on these subscribers. So in this case, all we would need to do is to click Send Directly to Subscribers. Aweber would ask us for a segment name. We would create our segment name and then we'd save our segment. Now obviously, you're going to have more than one person in your email list. In this particular case, the mechanics will work the exact same. You would still create a segment based on either people who had opened, people who had unopened. You can create a segment and actually send an email to them. So here's how that process would work. You'd actually click Schedule a Broadcast, and then you'd actually have all of the list selected. But what you do is you would actually edit, and then you would actually send to a certain segment. And you'll see there that our segment that we just created is actually there. And so the only people that will receive this email would be those within the segment that we created. And then we would click Send Message Now. So again, we are tracking clicks, we are tracking statistics, and we can tell what our broadcast and our email marketing is actually doing. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Now, one of the ways to create content for your emails inside of your draft will be to do a blog broadcast. And Aweber has that blog broadcast in the messages area, and all you'll have to do is to go to that link and then click Create a Blog Broadcast. Now, if you are a blogger or a podcaster, you'll be able to create your broadcast by having your RSS feed URL. Now, this is going to happen every time you publish a certain amount of content. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to write in a subject so that your customers will recognize that this is going to be your content and that you have actually published something new. So you can actually write in here something like new post. You can actually personalize that subject line so that when the person actually sees the email, they're going to see their name, they're going to see that it is a new post. So what you can then do is you can write in a message that's going to appear every time that you have new content. We can actually put that same message inside of the plain text box so that it also goes out. Now, if your content is from a WordPress blog, Aweber can actually tell you how to find the feed URL for your RSS. And typically it is going to be in one of the forms that you see here. We can take that feed information and we can place that in our feed. And then we can actually choose a template. Now you'll notice that we've just got writing here, but we can actually use a template, or you can leave it in the plain format, and that is what we are going to do. Now if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll notice that we can actually control the send time of the content and the email. So we can actually send the broadcast either immediately or we can send it at a specific time. We can also determine how often we send the broadcast, which will not be dependent on how often we publish. So for example, we can send a broadcast on a certain period of the day, a certain time of the month. We can send it automatically, and of course we can continue to track clicks. So once we've determined how we're going to send our broadcast, we can then click the items, and then we can click Save Blog Broadcast. So now we have automated content so that whenever we actually have new content on our blog, it's actually going to be sent to people according to our post reaching the number 4. This is a great way of actually keeping the people who actually want your content well aware of what it is that you are doing. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Now, before we get ready to actually send this message, one of the things that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that in addition to our HTML message, that we also send out a plain text version. Some people will only be able to receive plain text, even though most people will be able to receive an HTML message inside of one of the common email providers like Gmail or Hotmail or one like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the plain text area. And what you're going to notice is that Aweber will auto-generate the information based on what's there. However, we don't want our client to see the information like this when it comes to them. So what we want to do is we want to customize this information. We can do that by clicking the custom button. And then we can then customize the look and make corrections as we're doing right here. Now, once the email is the way that we want it to look, we can click Save and Exit, and then we can save the entire message. Now, there is one other aspect that you'll notice down here, that you can actually include an attachment from your hard drive. However, you can reduce the deliverability of your email based on the document that you place here. So you want to make sure that it is absolutely necessary that you send out a document to all of your email subscribers in this list. So now that we have everything in the email the way we want it to be, we're going to click Preview and Test. And then we can then take a look at our email. If we think it is sufficient, then we can click Save and Exit. Now, the email still appears in our draft, and we have a couple of options. We can either copy this to another list, or we can actually add this to our follow-up series or our autoresponders, or we can send it out as a broadcast email. Now, each one of these cases requires some explanation, so we are going to actually do that in the next video. However, what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a look at our spam score, and we're going to click this link. What the Aweber filter does is it tries to discern what may look like spam in terms of your message. And if you see some changes that you think you could make, you might want to go back and change some of the phrases that Aweber gives you that could cause a problem in the spam filter. But in general, if your spam score is where it needs to be, you can conclude that this email is going to be okay to send. Now, one thing that we can do is we can send this email to ourselves by sending a test email. And we'll write our email address here in the box to make sure that it makes it into our box and it doesn't go to the spam filter. All we have to do is click Send Test. And when we see the email inside of our box, we've got a pretty good indication that this could be a good email and it will actually make it to our customer. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.